Can we talk for a minute about our Integrating Heart and Mind workshop?
Absolutely. I'm excited. It's coming up in the fall of 2024.
I'm so excited. We changed the format to make it more accessible to people with like work schedules and personal schedules. And so this time we're going to do it 3 hours on a Friday afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at, and 5 hours on Saturday for 2 different weeks in September.
Yeah, it's so great. Like if you're finding yourself stuck in like sticky bad patterns or having communication issues or something like that, or if you want to just like get closer and trust yourself or your partner more, this is the workshop for you.
Yeah, and individuals are welcome, couples are welcome. If you're interested in really thinking through how to serve yourself well inside of your relationships, then we've built a workshop that will support you in finding the ways that are just right for you.
To sign up, head over to our website at whydoesmypartner.com/events.
We hope you'll join us. Welcome to the Why Doesn't My Partner podcast.
I'm Jules.
I'm Vicky.
And I'm Rebecca. We're your hosts. We're also couples therapists and messy humans bumbling through our own relationships every day.
We met through our training and practice of relational life therapy. Between us, we have more than 40 years of experience holding hard relational questions with our clients. We're going to bring those questions here.
And together, we're going to take a stab at answering those questions. This podcast is not a substitute for therapy.
If something you hear in this episode stirs something deep within you about your relationship, reach out to a couples therapist in your area.
We'd also love to hear your questions, so don't forget to go over to whydoesmypartner.com and leave us a question of your own. Here's today's question. Why doesn't my partner tell me when they're upset?
Because we're completely conflict avoidant. I say that as a person who tends towards conflict avoidance.
Seriously, though.
I am being totally serious.
I know you are. And I actually find myself thinking, I don't even know if I am or am not. Like that's the look on my
you're
face.
totally conflict avoidant, Vicky.
Am I? Oh, yeah. Like I don't get quiet. I just give in to everything. So there's no conflict.
That's right. We can be conflict avoidant in a lot of ways. So it could be that we get conflict avoidant by being upset and sitting on resentment, but not saying anything.
Oh, yeah. No,
or it could be that we conflict avoidant, like, I'm not going to tell you when I'm upset. And then I can put it away. I kind of forget about it. But what happens is I have less and less and less closeness to you. And I find myself telling you less and less. Like I find myself not telling you my whole truth. And then it's not like I'm actively upset every moment, but it's like when the upsets happen, I don't say anything. I don't tell you my whole truth. And then we end up fading away from each other and getting further and further and further away.
Yeah. And I'm kind of sitting here thinking that sometimes like my partner might not tell me, or I might not tell my partner, or like whoever we're talking about. It doesn't have to be me in my relationship. Mm-hmm. But part of the reason also could be it doesn't feel good to notice when I'm upset. Like I don't want to sit in my own feelings. They're really freaking uncomfortable.
Right. So it's not even that
I'm avoiding conflict.
I'm avoiding conflict. It's more like I'm avoiding the distress in me. It could be that every time my partner brings up conflict, I'm so defensive, it goes nowhere. And so they have stopped.
And it could also be that the fights between us get so freaking big.
Right. If it's super explosive, or if it turns into like some desert for 3 or 4 days every time we have a thing. So it's like the implosion instead of the explosion. But then it's not worth it to bring up upset. And then I'll avoid it.
And maybe when they do bring it up, you don't hear them.
Totally. Like they're trying to bring it up. And they may bring it up skillfully and maybe not. I don't know about that.
Right. Or maybe they're in the ways that they're bringing it up. Like it's just, maybe they are really trying to.
Yeah.
And you're not picking up on it. You're not catching it.
Totally. And it could help for them to maybe write down on a very large, high pink sign, I'm upset. I would like to speak to you about that. And
Is
for
this-
all of
wait,
you
wait,
at
is-
home, if you
but is this
listen to
like-
this with your partner, I think we should have a whole bunch of people writing "I'm upset" on really huge pink posters.
Are we talking about like a pale pink or a fluorescent pink?
I think fluorescent, but I say you do
Mhm.
you. Mhm.
It just has to be pink, so not too much of you do you.
It doesn't have to be pink. You could make it a different color, but do make it bright enough that it would catch someone's attention.
I'm totally wondering what he would do right now. If I not right now. Right now, I'm not going to go downstairs with a big old sign, but because I'm not. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering what he would do next time if I just walked into the room with a sign.
I'm holding my arms up. I'm upset. Sign.
I'm thinking of my dear, almost teenage daughter who texts me, "I'm mad at you."
Yeah,
She's really good at direct
She's
communication.
really good at it.
he made a sign.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lots of exclamation points.
totally. And we could have grown up
Yeah.
in families that there was no friction.
I was
Yeah, yeah.
just going to say that. Right.
Or the only thing I did see was explosion. So now I'm freaked out by it.
Mhm.
So I could be I'm not necessarily conflict avoidant because I'm afraid something's going to go wrong between us. I'm afraid because everything in my history tells me that's a terrible plan. To
So
tell
I
someone
didn't-
you're upset.
I didn't learn in childhood that you can work through the problems.
Right.
That's what you're
Right.
alluding to, Jules, is that you
Mhm.
didn't, because
There's no
again,
trust in repair.
no trust in repair. Well, because there wasn't repair, right? So it either
Mhm.
was an implosion of a desert for 3 days or an explosion.
Mhm.
Neither of those is healthy.
Have we talked about how we gain and learn that trust? Like, have we had the Tronic conversation around?
No, I don't know. Maybe we have. If we have it, whether we have or haven't, let's have it again.
Yeah.
Because you
Yes.
can't go over this information enough.
No. So there's this research out there. Ed Tronic, Claudia Gold, there's this research out there about how important discord is,
Mhm.
right? And that we're not supposed to get it right all the time. Like, we actually need to have discord in our relationships in order to build intimacy and trust.
Yes. And trust both ways. Trust in the resiliency of relationship and also trust in the resiliency of self. So if I have not had practice in moving through a very difficult frictiony feeling and then being okay, whether it's in me or between us or both is preferable, right? If that happens over and over and over again, I'm going to have erosion of trust. I don't have trust built up. It's not even an erosion of trust. It's like a deficit of trust from the beginning. So if I don't have enough
No chance for it to
friction-
grow.
Exactly. So if I don't have enough friction in my coupleship, right, what's going to happen is I don't trust I can handle negative feelings, and I don't trust we can handle my upset feelings and be okay. And so I'm not having trust in me, and I'm not having trust in us. And maybe I'm not having trust in you too. And what's amazing about Edtronic's work and Claudia Gold's work, and they wrote this book called The Power of Discord, which is on my top recommend list for
Mhm.
everybody and their dog.
Everybody.
Just
No,
everybody.
no
go
matter
read
who
that
you
book.
are, if you're a human, read it.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I guess if you're Jules's dog too.
Also, my dog. I read it to Layla out loud. So, so the brilliance of it is it's talking about what happens not just when we don't risk moving through that friction and into repair, how much trust is gone, but also if we never risk it, that there is no intimacy and there is no trust in the relationship. Because we don't have evidence that we could be matched.
Okay.
Well, match and then mismatch and then come back and have a shared reality again.
Mhm.
Not a shared reality perfectly, but a shared reality enough to feel seen, to feel gotten, to feel not alone in this world. So when we don't have that, what we're missing really is intimacy. So if you're out there, you're listening to this, and you do not tell your partner when you're upset, you can keep doing that. That's totally fine. But know this, you are making a choice to have less intimacy than is possible for you. That means you're making a choice to be less known, less alone, less resourced in yourself, a smaller feeling of resiliency in your own system. Like, that's the choice if we avoid discord.
You're missing the opportunity to connect.
You're
Yeah.
missing the opportunity to build trust in your own ability to
Mhm.
get through hard stuff.
And maybe just because you have no reason to believe you have that ability,
Mm-hmm.
like based on your family and growing up, it didn't happen.
Right.
And so you walk into your this current romantic relationship, like not necessarily set up to fail, but with these concerns. So you don't show when you're upset, you don't work through the repair. And so it's a it repeats the cycle.
Well, you
Yes.
don't have a map for it, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so in the
Mhm.
absence of that map, that we can survive hard things,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
right? Like we need some kind of framework to place that on. And if we grew up in homes where everything was hard and there was no reprieve from that, and it was all chaotic, or if we grew up in homes where everything was kind of Pollyanna like or swept under the rug
Mhm.
and not talked about, right? We might not have maps for how can we get through hard things together.
And therefore not have trust in our own ability individually
Right.
Mhm.
to get through hard things and in relationship to survive hard things.
Yeah, it's
I
sad.
know. I
Yeah.
know.
You know what
It's-
what I love about this research though? Like I
Mm.
find it so liberating when I look at it, because like they give these percentages
Mhm.
about how often we have to kind of quote unquote get it right. Right. And it's like when I see these numbers, right? It's like 1/3 of the time. 1/3 of the time.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty low. I mean, I haven't read the book yet. I own it.
33%.
I just haven't read it. But yeah, it's pretty low, which is encouraging.
Yeah. Like, 1/3 of the time we want that mismatch and repair. Right?
Mhm.
Like it's
Mhm.
going to go wrong. There's going to be discord. And we turn back to each other and we figure it out and we work it through and we get back to that place where there's connection,
Mhm.
even if it's not perfect. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Another third of the time, we're just in discord.
And we never fix it. And that's okay. We're just going to move on.
We just
It's
leave it
okay to
there.
move on sometimes. It's
Yeah.
okay to move on. You do not have to fix every single
Everything.
thing every single time. It's okay. Third of the time, it could just be like, that was a miss, and move on with your life.
And another third of the time, it's just magical.
It's a match.
It just works.
It's a
But
match.
it doesn't take
Right.
effort.
Yeah.
But that's only 1/3 of the time.
1/3.
Harmony phase. So like last night, we had this lovely moment where I was coloring a shoe. That's my hobby. I color shoes. And
What kind of
it's
shoes?
Sneakers.
Sneakers?
I like
Okay.
a sneakers, like Keds. I make little
Yeah.
designs on them and then I color them very intricately. I'll make you a pair. Anyway,
Okay.
so you'll have to get your shoe size later. I'll make you guys shoes.
Thank you.
So I
Me too.
color shoes for fun, and I'm watching the British Baking Show, and my husband comes and sits with me, and he brings me a little whiskey, and he says,
I'm like back in like coloring shoes, watching the British Baking Show. This sounds like
Totally.
a delicious, amazing
it was a
moment.
It was, and by the way, he had been watching some sports show in a different room, and he comes in and he has this little whiskey, and he sits down next to me. He goes, "So, tell me about these guys. Who's winning? Who do you like? Who's going to be the best baker this week? Who's going to be a star baker?"
Oh,
That was a moment of harmony.
yeah.
We were distant before that. We didn't have to talk about that to come back into harmony. You don't need to fix the moments of separateness every time.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree. But I'd also want to add, not a but, it's an and, that separate isn't always discord.
Separate is not always discord.
Because I don't know that
when
you
we're
guys were in
thinking-
Discord last night.
No, not
We
really.
were just in
But
separate rooms.
well,
Well, hold on a minute, because
yes, but I'm actually leaning into Edtronics research on this.
Okay.
Is
So I'll shut
the research is actually around when are you matching, when are you mismatched, and then when do you come back together and how back into matched. So
when you're watching
even
different
just-
shows,
even
in
just doing
rooms, you're
different shows,
mismatched.
different rooms, we're mismatched.
Okay.
So it's not that anything was wrong or anybody was upset. Nobody was upset.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, nobody was upset, but we were mismatched in that moment. Now, sometimes mismatch also comes with upset.
Right. Yes.
And when it does, man, is it helpful to you and your own resilience and helpful to your relationship? If you can say that out loud,
Right.
But nobody has a map for that because we
Mhm.
live in a world that does not do this well. Does somebody want to give our people a map?
Yeah.
Because we have
Yeah.
a map.
We have a map. This is one of like my favorite things about relational life therapy is this map, right? And
for those of you who know nonviolent communication, this map is going to feel really familiar. This map is not original. Like this map has been coming. I just want to give a shout out for lots of different spaces.
This is one incarnation of the map.
Right. Where different ways of communicating upset have come to be.
Right. And so I think let's just name that one of the most important things in all healthy relationships, in all respectful relationships, is feedback.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right. And so if we're
Sharing
talking
your truth about your experience,
yeah,
not just of you, but of interactions between you, of stuff that's happening with them.
and it turns out there's like healthy ways of doing that.
Yes.
Totally.
And there are some less effective ways of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean like saying you're a terrible human is bad?
Totally. Yeah. Like, you know, and I want to can I take it a step further?
Yeah.
Like in the moments where I say things like you always, you never, right? Fill in the blank, anything after that, right? But like you always do this. You never do that.
Or
right?
this is what you do. This is your pattern. That was my quote.
Or how about you are a right? Like when the thing that you have done becomes who you are.
Right. All of that would be not good.
Yeah.
One thing that I think is really hard for people to wrap their heads around, and by the way, feels in the moment for a lot of people deeply unfair, is that, ouch, you can't have two speakers and have someone listen.
I was going to say separate roles.
Yeah. It's like, it's a one-way street, right? So when somebody is talking, have I shared this? I don't think I've shared this on the podcast. I know I talk about it in our boot camp, but I'm borrowing this from Haiti Schleifer's work, where she talks about how you have like a host and a visitor, and you both have your baggage. And one of you is going to walk over this tiny, really, really narrow bridge to the other's land, but you have to leave your bags behind and you can't bring them with you because this bridge is so narrow that you can only bring yourself. And when you arrive there, your job is just to learn about this other person's world.
Yeah.
And so
if your partner comes to you with upset, our recommendation is to try to leave your baggage and what's wrong on your side at the other side of the bridge for now, because you're being in service, right? But really, I want to give people like a quick map for how to talk about it.
Yeah.
And the first piece of that map is contracting. I'd like to talk about something that is a little bit hard for me or that feels frictiony between us. Is now an okay time?
Is now a good time?
So I don't think we often contract. I think we often come at each other.
Yes.
And so I think contracting is now an okay time is really helpful.
And
Super.
if the listener is not prepared and the answer is no, they need to give a time that is a good time. Like just because my partner comes to me doesn't mean I have to stop everything I'm doing right now and listen if I'm not prepared for it.
Right. So let me break that down. So let's say we're dating, Vicki, and you're upset about something. Go ahead and ask
date
me.
all of us.
I do. I'm going to be like, love is with all of you. So let's imagine, Vicki, that we're dating and you're upset. Go ahead and give me the invite and I'll give a no and instead of just a no.
I'd like to talk with you about something going on for me. Is now an okay time?
Actually, babe, I've got so much going on right now. Could I swing back to you later tonight?
How much later?
Let's say before 10 p.m.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Easy peasy.
That was wonderful.
Yeah. And then there is a way that you can bring it up in a way that's a little less accusey. If you're upset,
That's a good word.
you don't want to be accusey. I think I just made up that word. But
I like that
that's-
word. I think
yeah.
it's
I
the
do
word
like that
it
word.
captures kind of the work of it.
Mhm.
Apparently, we can make up words.
Or blamey.
Blamey. I know. I don't want to be blamey. I want to tell you what's wrong for me and my point of view, but I don't want to do it in a way that's attacking or accusing or putting it all on you.
Because I want you actually to hear me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mhm.
I want us to walk away from this like with you having an understanding about why I'm upset. And if I, depending on how I do this, it's very possible that all that might show up from you is defense.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yep, exactly. So the map starts with observation. The map starts with observation. So the map is observation, story I made up about my observation,
Mhm.
how those two things came together, what happened plus my story to create a feeling, or maybe more than one feeling in me, and then a request, what I would like for you, right, from you right this second.
And can I back up to the observation?
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to note that like that observation, first of all of these pieces, all of these little prompts we're giving you, they're brief, right? We don't want you to go
yeah.
on and on.
1 to 2
Oh,
sentences tops.
you get a sentence apiece. Yeah.
And two, when you're offering that observation, we want to keep it like if there was a video camera in the room,
Mhm.
what did it see?
Right. So when you came in and you were angry is not an observation.
Nope.
When you came in, slammed the door and then didn't say hello is an observation.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the story I made up about that. So let's do the angry entry.
Yeah.
So the story I made up about that is
That you were
still
angry.
You were still upset about the thing with my
Mm.
mother from yesterday. And then I thought, you're never going to forgive me for not choosing my mom or always choosing my mom over you and blah, 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 blah. Like I could go on with the story, but we want to keep it short.
Okay, yep, I was going to say you're not allowed to go on.
I know.
Keep it short.
Yeah.
1 to
Right.
2 sentences.
So the story I made up is you were still pissed off at me about the thing yesterday with my mom.
That's good.
And when you
then
put that together, what do you get?
I felt guilty and scared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And right now, I'd love to know what actually happened when you came in. It would help me to know where you are.
That's like,
Done.
okay, so now I know what you need from me.
Yeah. I
Right?
just
Like-
gave you a map of what I need.
Yeah. And that's, I think, the key about this, right? Because so much of this work is like, how can when I'm giving you this information, when I'm sharing this feedback, how can I tell you what you can do to help me?
Mm-hmm. And it
Mhm.
needs to be now and positive, and it could be an apology. That's not a problem. But if it's an apology, then say what I'd like is an apology
Right.
and a plan about how we can do this differently in the future.
Yeah.
For example.
Mhm.
So the thing that you're asking for needs to be able to be done now. So I'm not asking you to do something different in the future. I'm asking for a plan about how you might support yourself in doing something different in the future.
Yeah. So that is what we call the feedback wheel. And I think it's super important for everybody to kind of play with and
Mhm.
find their comfort zone inside of. I find for my people that it's helpful to sometimes write it down first, the first few times, to kind of find their language and find the skill of practicing it.
Mhm.
But then there's another side of it, right? And so I think in next week's episode, we're going to talk about that other side.
Yeah, because we have a good question coming next week. We'll see you guys soon.
Take good care.
Bye-bye.
Take care of each other best you can.
Bye.
That wraps up this week's episode. Join us again next week for another Why Does My Partner?
We hope that you continue to listen wherever you get your audio and that you'll follow the show.
To go deeper, join us at our boot camp. You'll find the next date at whydoesmypartner.com.
Did you know you could ask us your question?
Your questions are relational gold.
Go to whydoesmypartner.com to either write in or record your question for a future episode.